So, since May 2023, a really devastating civil conflict has just completely torn through India's northeastern state of Manipur. And we're not just going to talk about the politics here. No. This is a look at the real human cost of a state that's been divided against itself. We're going to hear from the people who are living through it day in and day out.
I have nothing to start over again. Just let that sink in. Those are the words of a teacher named Elvie, who was forced to flee her home. And her voice, it just speaks for tens of thousands of people who've lost absolutely everything. This is the raw human reality of what's happening on the ground.
So, how did things fall apart so fast? Well, to really get it, we need to zoom in from the big picture and start with just one family. The story of the Kongais really shows us what that first wave of violence felt like.
Okay, so meet Mary Kinkai. She lived with her husband, James, and their daughter in the capital city, Imphal. Now, they were a Kuki family in an area where most people are Meitei. But you know what? Life was peaceful. It was normal. And then, just like that, one day, everything changed. A mob came for their home. Mary and her daughter, they somehow managed to escape. But James, he was captured and beaten to death. And it took 7 whole months for his body to be returned to his family.
And James, he was one of the very first victims. Since then, this conflict has taken the lives of nearly 260 people. And behind that number, you have to remember, are hundreds of stories just like his, on both sides of this tragic divide. So you have to ask, how does a place where people have lived side by side for generations just erupt into civil war? Well, the answer is, it's complicated. It's a mix of old wounds and one specific event that just lit the fuse. It all kicked off in early May 2023. It started when a court recommended something pretty controversial, giving the majority Métis community scheduled tribe status. Now, this status comes with special benefits, like jobs and education quotas. The Kuki community, who already had that status, saw this as a direct threat to their land and resources. And literally, by May 3rd, violent clashes were breaking out. But then it got so much worse. Mobs broke into state police armories and looted thousands of weapons. Suddenly, the entire region was flooded with guns, and the violence just exploded to a whole new, terrifying level.
And this is really the heart of the division. You've got 2 main groups. The Métis, they're the majority in the state. They mostly live down in the Fertile Valley, and they hold most of the political power. Then you have the Kuki. They're a minority, about 16% of the population, living mainly up in the hills, and they're already recognized as a scheduled tribe. For a long, long time, there was this kind of delicate balance. But this whole debate over giving that special status to the Métis, it just shattered everything.
And the violence, it got so bad it spared no one. I mean, listen to this. Vunzagan Valte, a Kuki lawmaker from India's ruling party, was brutally attacked by a mob. And this happened just minutes away from police headquarters. He survived, thank God, but with just devastating, life-altering injuries. And it really makes you wonder, if an elected official from the party in power isn't safe, then who is? So after all that violence, what was left wasn't just emotional scars. The state of Manipur has been physically torn apart. It's literally been partitioned. There are new, unofficial borders that now dictate every single aspect of daily life. They're called buffer zones. And what that means is they're basically unofficial borders, and they're manned by Indian security forces. They separate the Kuki-dominated hill areas from the Meitei-dominated valley. And the rule is simple and brutal. If you're a civilian from one community, you absolutely cannot cross into the other. The state is, for all intents and purposes, split clean in 2. Frequently, they are firing from the hillside towards the farmers. That's what a young man named Bumi told us. His grandfather, a Métis farmer, was shot and wounded while he was just out working in his rice field. Imagine that. Bumi says shootings like this, from the Kuki-controlled hills down into the Métis Valley, they happen all the time. It's just a constant, terrifying part of life now. So, since the Kukis were basically cut off from the main valley roads, they had to get creative. They built their own solution, a road they called Tiger Road. It's basically this rough dirt track that they carved right through the mountains. It's become a vital lifeline. It lets them completely bypass the Métis-controlled valley to get supplies and travel to other areas. It's an incredible symbol of survival. But it's also a dangerous one. It's manned by armed Kuki volunteers to keep it safe. But for so many people, building a new road wasn't an option. They couldn't stay. They couldn't adapt. Their only choice was to run. And what that's created is a massive humanitarian crisis. We're talking tens of thousands of people now crammed into makeshift relief camps.
The number is just staggering. Over 60,000 people have been forced from their homes. And it's important to note, the vast majority of them are from the Kuki community. They're now living in whatever shelter they can find, schools, churches, really any public building that can fit them.
And remember Elvie, the teacher we heard from at the very beginning? This is where she is now, in one of these camps with her 2 little girls. And what she said, it's just heartbreaking. She says her kids are growing up there, and for them, this has become normal life. I feel very, very sad for them, she told us. Think about that. They don't remember a world before this. And normal life in these camps, well, it's unbelievably tough. Get this. Water is only available twice a week. There's not enough good, nutritious food to go around. For all the trauma people have been through, there's no access to mental health resources. You've got entire families living in these huge halls with just flimsy mesh sheets separating them from the next family. And for kids like Elvie's, there's nowhere to study, nowhere to really be a kid.
But even in the middle of all this suffering, especially for the kids, you see these incredible sparks of resilience. People are finding really creative ways to try and process all the trauma and maybe, just maybe, start to heal. Now, let's go to the other side of the divide, into a Meitei relief camp. There, a musician named Aku Chingambam saw what this conflict was doing to the children, the psychological weight of it all, and he just knew he had to do something. So Aku turned to what he knows best, music. He started using it as a tool for healing, recording songs with the kids right there in the camp. It gave them a voice, a way to get out all that anxiety and stress. As he puts it, I believe music is a very crucial tool. It's a sort of a therapy for every one of us here. Not just for the kids, he says, but for everyone. So you have these amazing little acts of healing, these glimmers of hope, but it all comes back to the one huge question. After so much violence, after so much division, can the people of Manipur ever really come together again?
Right now, the future looks like it could go 2 very different ways. On one side, you have many in the Kuki community who feel the trust is just gone, irreparably broken. For them, the only safe way forward is a totally separate political administration. But on the other side, you have many Meitei, people like Aku the musician, who are clinging to the hope that their long-shared history can somehow overcome this awful present and that they can learn to live together again. Now, as this conflict dragged on, the Indian government's response was heavily criticized. But in late 2025, the Prime Minister did visit. He met with displaced people and announced a pretty big aid package, nearly $1 billion in development projects. Now, for some, this was a much-needed sign of hope. But for others who've lost so much, well, the question is, can money and promises really heal a divide this deep? And that really brings us back to the central, unanswered question. For the people of Manipur whose lives have been completely fractured by this violence, who are now separated by buffer zones and this chasm of mistrust, can their shared history ever be enough to overcome this divided present? It's a huge question, and ultimately it's one that only they can answer.